Hey, it's Dr. Manny from Break the Cage MD. We're at 31. Awesome. We're two-thirds of the way. Well, no, three-fifths. Math is fantastic. Three-fifths of the way through the digital publishing is series. So 31 of 50. Digital publishing is LOGOS. Now, let's look at all the ones I like to call the OS series. We started off with Kairos, and I've gone through that several times over the last 30 episodes, so I won't beat that too deep into the ground. Kairos, Mythos, which is the architecture of the cultural story, the sort of the context of the target psychographic, the audience, the group that you are planning to serve. Then we went from Kairos, Mythos. Then we went to Ethos, which is decorum, when in Rome, is what I like to think of it as. And then Pathos, which is emotional resonance, sympathy, empathy, signaling in the same channels and communicating in the language of the either your prospect, your customer, the person with whom you're engaging in the relationship. Now, last of all these is logos. Logos is inductive and deductive reasoning. It's rhetorical reasoning. Um, and when you're dealing with logos, it's easy to in our culture, rhetoric has gotten a sort of a bad name of being like fluff or whatever. But in the end, it's the mechanism through which we're able to do collective social cognition. It's the way in which you and I start off with a difference of opinion, but by the end of it, we've traveled together willingly to what I like to think of as commitment instead of compliance. You didn't bludgeon me into doing what you wanted me to do. You provided me with a set of reasons, and I was able to, after digesting, processing those reasons, infer on my own, either deductively or inductively, that, hey, actually, I see your point of view. You moved me to your perspective. You may remember a few videos back as I mentioned that you get a change in perspective. From that change in perspective, you get a change in motivation. From a change in motivation, then you get a change in behavior, change in action, change in outcomes, change in results. Now, there's one other sort of remote point that I want to bring up. This is again Richard Petty's elaboration likelihood model. Uh, the key idea of elaboration likelihood models is that there's two pathways of persuasion. You have your central, your peripheral. Your central route is what we're talking about right now. Your peripheral is just kind of like this is the whole bounded rationality argument. Someone hears you trying to explain something, they're like, "Oh, that's a lot of crap." Okay, you go ahead and do your thing. They don't necessarily internalize, assimilate, and take the data within their schema. So, and some of the other stuff you can call it introjection, introjected values, introjected beliefs. It's when, like, as a child, sometimes you take beliefs from your parents and you learn it as a ritual. You learn how to do it, but you don't learn the nooks and crannies. And as such, later on, when the circumstances, when the terrain changes, you're not necessarily prepared to use what are called the, the word boundary conditions is coming to mind. Like, for example, let's say I say to you, use your left hand from 6 p.m. till noon, 6 p.m. till midnight. From midnight to 6, use your right hand. And I put a reward punishment system in place to make it, to incentivize it and to discourage you from messing up. At midnight ends up being your boundary condition. But if I didn't teach you to tell time, or I had another rule, except for on Wednesdays when I want you to do the opposite. And they clarified that Wednesday started at midnight and started at just I'm kind of just throwing them on there for the key point that as you stack complexity onto a set of rules, a lot of people go into scripted, ritualistic behavior. They with kids you get what's called over imitation. A child over imitates until they understand what it is you're truly doing. So they do the goal directed behavior, but they also do the associated rituals. Like, I'm trying to think of I'll have to come back with a good example of this, but I just want to capture that set of models. Uh, when someone is learning from you through imitation, in memetics and in perceptual control theory, this is the idea of trans-empirical inference. I can't read your mind, but I can set up my own virtual working machine my own set of things so that I make the inferences. I travel to the idea through the semantic space, through the meaning space that you have, so that I can make up my own mind with your set of data. And then that's the central route. That's Petty's central route of persuasion. The benefit of the central route is that when a boundary cognition emerges, when we have a phase shift from a phase transition from the state of the environment, the state of affairs in which you want to apply outcome B, result B to get the outcome versus result A. I'm able to discern that myself. I don't need it externally. I'm able to delegate decision making onto the environment and the parameters within the environment. So, I'm not sure if I simplified that or made it more noisy. Anyway, it's Dr. Manning, Break the Cage MD. Digital publishing is logos. That's inductive and deductive reasoning. Break the Cage MD.